Welcome back. So tuned in to News and Views with myself, Salalo Makwidi. The time is 9:55 a.m. Central African Time, and we're going to be switching gears now to a very, very important conversation. The conversation around a very important mission that is bound for Gaza, a mission that is currently under fire, literally. I think to an extent, the global Sumud Flotilla, a coalition of humanitarian activists from over 44 countries. There's been reports that some of their boats were struck by drone attacks. I think one while docked in Tunisian waters, and one of the craft, the British flagged Alma, caught fire after the latest strike. The Portuguese family boat was also hit, but no one was hurt in all of those attacks, if I'm not mistaken, except just minor bruises and minor scars. But yeah, I think we can agree that the stakes are very, very high at this point. I think there are more looming threats, and Israeli authorities are hinting at labeling mission volunteers as terrorists. But yeah, the flotilla is preparing to sail, and to give us more insight about the preparations, the event of the last few days, and what is currently happening on board, and what they're up against, we are now joined by Tariq Raouf, a spokesperson of the Global Sumud Flotilla. Tariq, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate your time, and I think an important conversation to have, as the flotilla could be setting sail anytime now. But yeah, really appreciated that you're able to come on.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. This is a very historical moment for the Palestinian liberation movement. I don't think we've ever seen mobilization of this scale before, and so we're doing everything that we can, to utilize this moment to make sure that we consistently look at the people of Gaza and look at what's going on, and hold our leaders accountable for their complicity in this ongoing genocide.
Mm, mm, mm. One of the most concerning, stories that have been coming out in the build-up of the sale of these different voyages and under the Sumud flotilla, has been, the sequence of these attacks that we've seen happen. I think it's been three of them. If you can just take us through, maybe not all of them, but some of the key ones that you feel are important to note, the damage that was done, what the suspicion of the attack, could have probably came from, and so some of the evidence that you have, because I think it's very, very important to talk about this aspect. Everyone is concerned.
Yeah, I mean, everyone should be rightly concerned considering what has happened to previous Freedom Flotilla missions in the past. But one thing I do want to say is that we don't want to center too much attention on the attacks and what happened to these flotillas, simply for the fact that so far no one has been hurt, and it has not derailed the mission in any way. And oftentimes, what these kinds of things are meant to be are distractions. They're meant to distract from the focus. They're meant to distract from the mission. They're just meant to distract from the ongoing genocide that is currently happening, which is illegal, and the illegal blockade and the siege on Gaza. So oftentimes when people want to immediately look at all the media, look at all the attacks and see what has been happening to these boats, rightfully so, we are concerned about all the participants, the safety of the mission. We want to make sure that things are still happening. And as of this moment, things are still set to sail to Gaza. But right now, we shouldn't be focusing on the attacks, because that's exactly what the oppressors want us to think about. They don't want us to think about the fact that children are still starving in this moment. They don't want us to think about the fact that aid hasn't been able to get into Gaza for ages. So it's very important, especially, you know, for the folks of South Africa, for the folks of Palestine, for the folks of any oppressed nation who understands what it's like to be oppressed by an oppressor. They're going to use anything that they can to distract you from the fact that they are oppressing you. And so, one key thing that we always need to be talking about is, why are we sailing? Why is this mission happening in the first place? And that is to break the illegal siege on Gaza.
Hmm, Yeah, and that's very, very, very important. One thing, and this may be just the last question around the concerning parts, and I'll talk about everything else. One thing that was also concerning was the fact that the response to this flotilla, especially from Israel's point of view, has been what one might have expected. But there's one that really stood out. The Israeli National Security Minister, Ben Kafir, say, they may designate volunteers of the flotilla, so everyone, from all the different nations that's going to be participating in this flotilla as terrorists. What kind of impact would such a designation have on your mission legally and operationally? And just looking at how Israel has been going about, the impunity that they've been, going about and flaunting for, the last few months and years now, having people being designated as terrorists by that regime, I'm sure it's concerning.
Mm. Ah, it is concerning, but the fact is that Israel has no legal right to detain any of the passengers on any of these flotillas, and they have no legal right to consider these people terrorists because these people are not entering the land of Israel. They're entering Palestinian land of Gaza. It is an illegal act to ascertain and to apprehend any member of the flotillas, like Israel has been doing with many of these, if not all of these flotillas in the past recent years. And so the attempt to try and paint all of these flotilla participants as terrorists is just another example of how far Israel is willing to go to break international law. And I'm Palestinian. I'm no stranger to being called a terrorist by the Israeli government. Even though I sit here in my home and I do my best for my family, and I do my best for my family that's still in Gaza, I do my best to honor the 44 family members that I lost in the last 2 years. I do everything I can to make the world a better place. And that doesn't seem like the definition of a terrorist, I don't think.
Mm, no, most definitely. From your vantage point, how do you see, this mission influencing public opinion globally? And what would you consider a success? When it's all said and done, and just looking at the true and lived reality of the circumstances of how and where this flotilla is operating, and what would you say? Okay, we've actually made a difference here. This is a success.
I actually think we've already made a difference right this moment. We are closer to a free Palestine than we ever have been before, ever. And I think that really scares Israel and its supporters. We are in a moment where thousands of people, over 20,000 people, applied to be a part of this amazing moment, this global Sumud flotilla. Over 20,000 people. That means that thousands of people all over the globe recognize this moment for what it is, which is a moment in need of direct action, of ordinary human beings getting up and standing up against these systems of oppression. That is what makes this moment so historical. And that's why I think we're already winning, is because
Mm,
we have never seen mass mobilizations of this scale with this much passion before. And it is absolutely inspiring to see the way that normal human beings are recognizing their own power to defeat the systems that have been oppressing us for decades, for centuries, even. Like, it is so easy to get caught up in all of the awful things, including the genocide and all of the ways that our people continue to be hurt. But one thing we also need to look at is that this is a moment where humanity is standing up against the chains that have been placed on us by people who believe that we are less than simply because of where we live or what language we speak or what religion we practice. And the society around the world has gotten really sick and tired of it.
mm,
And I am so honored to be a part of this mission. I'm honored to see the amount of pride and joy all over the world supporting the Global Sumud Flotilla, because that goes to show you exactly how universal the desire for a free Palestine and a free world really is.
mm. How do you respond to the trolls? The naysayers who are saying, this is largely performative. There's no amount of aid that you can carry on the little boats that can, reach the 2 million people that are starving in Gaza right now. The people that are doing this want to be celebrities. This is, no different from, the online kind of activism that we see where people just tweet and post things because Palestine is the in thing right now. How
Mhm.
how how how, how, how do you respond to that?
Well, this like I you mentioned so many different examples. I can't keep
Mm,
keep track. But in terms of like, dealing with the trolls, I, it's this is so different. Like this is more than just about delivering aid. This isn't a performative action. When you look at the Freedom Flotilla, the Handala and the Madeleine, who all got, they stopped before they were able to reach the shores of Gaza. They made it very clear that this isn't simply about opening a humanitarian corridor. It isn't only about delivering aid to the people of Gaza. This is about showing the people of the world what happens when we stand together and we unite against these oppressive systems. And in that respect, it's not performative at all. We've literally shown the world what happens when you build something, the people will come, right? It is something that shows what, solidarity looks like. The amount of people, international solidarity from so many different groups, so many different religions is remarkable. And so, you can say that this is a performative action and we're never going to get aid to Gaza. But when you look at the big picture of Palestine, the movement about moving for Palestine, it's not performative. You have
mm.
more people moving for Palestine than we ever have. And so to the trolls, I say, well, you're not looking at the bigger picture, are you?
No, most definitely. And just lastly, before I let you go, Tariq, is there anything, a parting shot, that you want to share to, people that are watching, listening, the public around the world, something they need to be aware of right now, something that maybe the general media might not yet fully understand about, what you and, just the flotilla in general are trying to achieve and are facing at this current moment?
The global Sumud Flotilla is about people recognize their own power to change the systems that are working against them. Every single person in this world has the power to enact change. Every single person. And so, whether or not you could have made it onto a flotilla, whether or not you could have been a part of the global Sumud Flotilla, it doesn't mean that you can't be a part of something to enact change in your own community. And that's the one thing that I hope that the global Sumud Flotilla really truly inspires worldwide is the fact that everyone has the ability to make change. And sometimes we get caught up in the change being the really big pictures and like these huge governmental issues and structural problems. But change includes talking to your neighbors. It includes talking to your bosses. It includes talking to the people within your community to understand what Zionism is, why it is failing the people of Palestine, why it shouldn't exist, and why Palestine deserves to be free. And in that respect, I think every single one of us should be able to hold on to that power and try to figure out what we can do with it.
There you have it, Tariq Rauf. Thank you so much for chatting to us. Really appreciate you giving us the time. And yeah, we'll continue following the flotilla quite closely. And, to all those that are on the different boats, Godspeed. And we hope to chat to you again when, they return back.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me on.
Go. That was Tariq Rauf of the Global Sumud Flotilla spokesperson speaking to us about the flotilla and where they are right now as they prepare to set sail. Its volunteers are facing threats, they're facing denials, and there's also a lot of uncertainty. But I think one thing that we can all celebrate right now and be very very proud of is they remain very much undeterred in their goal, the goal to break the naval blockade of Gaza and to deliver much needed aid to the 2 million Palestinians, 2 million men, women and children in Gaza who are wasting away, who are deteriorating right now, dying not just from this genocide that they have to try and survive on a daily basis, ducking missiles and ducking bullets on a daily basis, but from a lack of food, a lack of water, lack of medication. And this is not just a lack, this is a deliberate block of access to that. There's so much water for the people of Palestine, so much food for the people of Palestine that the world wants to give by droves. But that's not happening because of this apartheid pariah Israeli regime. So we'll continue following the flotilla quite closely. There's a few South Africans that are on board. We're going to be posting a really, really cool, like kind of like collage on Instagram to show some of the profiles of South Africans who are part of this flotilla. And what's really interesting for me is the fact that these are just ordinary people. Yeah, they are activists. They're people who are very, very much involved in Palestinian activism on like a bigger scale. But there's a guy that we spoke to, I think it was earlier this week on Tuesday, who's a carpenter from Joburg. Works with wood. That's his job, and you can even hear the way he speaks, the languaging that he uses is one. It's not one of an activist. There's no big words. It's just a random oak from Joburg who says enough is enough. I have to do something about this. I can't just sit around and watch men, women, and children die without acting in whatever little way. I just have to do something, and I think that's one thing to be very, very applauded. And I think a motivating factor for all of us from all across the world, especially us here in South Africa, people that know firsthand what apartheid and oppression is, what it looks like, what it feels like, and the continued consequences that we still face because of that to this day. So yeah, we'll be sharing those profiles. Head over to our Instagram page, search at Salam Media, and you'll be able to see like a really, really wonderful, like kind of a collage of some sort that was designed that shows you the profiles of the different South Africans that are on the flotilla, and we're going to be following it quite closely. I think hopefully we'll be able to get in touch once it says sail to some of the participants, some of the volunteers that are on the flotilla, and talk to them while they're in international waters. I think that would be really, really cool. And yeah, we'll continue tracking it for you, giving you all the latest images, updates, and anything and everything that you need to know around this very, very historic voyage, this very, very historic mission, mass mobilization from people from over 44 countries. I don't think we've ever seen anything on the scale before. And yeah, it's a strong message, for those that might think is performative. Oh my God. Do a bit of reading. There's been similar kind of mobilizations that were done for us here in South Africa, where people block off stadiums, not allowing our rugby team to play, or swarming the stadiums and not buying South African products, boycotting our fruits and vegetables. And this part of that is part of global solidarity. People saying in whatever little meaningful way that we can, we are. And I think the Global Sumud Flotilla cohort just took it to a whole other level, and we can only just support them from wherever we are, and give them the attention that they need. Because once we close our eyes and ears and we don't make this trend, that's when the Zionists win. That's when they can do absolutely whatever that they want to them. They can detain them. They can, send missiles and drones to destroy the boats, because we are not making a trend. We're not talking about it enough. Exact same reason why journalists in Gaza are being targeted, because they are the eyes and ears of the world. Once they are not there, once they can't show us those images, and we stop talking and interacting about Gaza and about Palestine, then that's the end. We've come to the end of today's show. Thank you so much for staying with us for the past 2 hours. Really, really appreciate it. But for myself, Salalo Makudere, and the rest of the team, I'll be back with you again next week, Tuesday, for the Tuesday edition of News and Views. Otherwise, sharp, sharp.